Hi all. Last week I had the chance to go to the Star Wars exhibition in Sydney. You're probably all wondering, why is Chris talking about Star Wars on LinkedIn? Well, first of all, I'm a big Star Wars buff, so it was great fun to actually go there. But also, there was a really great educational experience at the exhibition. It spoke a lot around the characters and their beliefs and their values, the things that they'd learned from their parents and their mentors during the different films as well, and how that made them the character that they were and the person that they were in the films. And also it took you on a bit of a journey and spoke about the real world as well, and how these things affect all of us as human beings. So it was a really great educational experience for children and adults alike. But as I was coming out of there and talking to some of my friends, it really got me thinking as well about what this means in a sales conversation and a situation when you're engaging with a prospect or a customer, and how everyone has got these different behavioural traits and personality types that they've built up over the years through their values and beliefs and experiences, and how we as salespeople need to engage with these people in different ways to build that rapport and trust with these prospects and customers. So over the coming week, I want to share with you some of my thoughts around that, and why it's so important that we do adapt our styles with different customers. Obviously, some of the big benefits of us doing that are that it should generate more sales for ourselves, but also we might improve the perception of us as an individual salesperson, our product or service, and also the brand of the organisation. Likely to get repeat business. And also, if you can build that rapport and trust by adapting your style with the customer, it's very likely you're going to be able to generate referrals and contacts and further business through those referrals that you get from customers as well. So the framework that I use for this sort of thing is DISC. I'm accredited in DISC Advantage, and have a program that you can use for DISC for sales. So D for dominance. And that's someone who's pretty fast paced, but they're more focused on the task than the person. So yesterday I spoke a bit about when I went to the Star Wars exhibition, different characters, and perhaps someone who's more dominant, you might say, is Darth Vader. Not saying that everyone who's dominant is a villain, but certainly, Darth Vader is very task focused, and he just gets down to it and makes sure he gets the outcome that he desires. So the traits that we're looking for in customers who are in dominance is that they're likely to be a bit more demanding than other personality types. They're quite impatient, interrupt others, they may become more irritated easily, and they like to focus on the bigger picture, so they like to have that bigger picture view of the world. So when you're in a sales conversation with that person, some of the things that you might want to make sure that you do in those situations is be more professional and efficient with them. Be very direct, because if you're very efficient and direct and to the point, you're likely to establish rapport more quickly with that individual as well. You're likely to need to provide options to them so that the customer feels that they're in control of the situation. And you want to focus on results and the fact that the customer feels that they're winning from the situation, which is obviously something we want to do in all of our conversations, but something particularly important with someone from a dominance perspective. You need to give them immediate feedback, concentrate on the subject or the product at hand that you're talking about, and also act really quickly, because this is someone who wants to get that end result very quickly as well. Some of the things you might not want to do is waste their time with small talk, go into all the details about the product, provide too much information, or try to control the situation, because this customer does want to feel like they're in control. So that's some of my thoughts around the dominance style, the I for influence. And if we think about I, it's somebody who is quite people focused and also fast paced. And when I've been talking a little bit about Star Wars this week as well, I think if we think about a character, it's probably Princess Leia who falls under this sort of personality type that we're talking about. So when we're thinking about in a customer conversation though, and we need to adapt our style, the sort of traits that we're looking for from a customer, which would show that they are somebody who is an influence style, is that they're going to get animated quite quickly and get very excitable in the conversation that we're having with them. They're going to be very open and friendly. They're going to stay away from some of the hard facts, and they may make decisions quite spontaneously as well. So when we're having that sales conversation with them, some of the things that we're going to want to do as a salesperson is focus on the relationship and take the time to chat and talk to them and find out more about them. We want to be more expressive and summarize the main points that we're discussing with them as well. And also we want to be more enthusiastic with them and give them recognition and approval as we're having conversations with them as well. And that's going to help build that rapport and trust with the customer. We want to focus on the big picture with them. And also we want to appeal to their emotions by asking how they feel about the product and service, because it's going to give them a chance to express themselves and talk more about the product and really help us build that rapport and engage with them in a really strong way. But also there's some things we might not want to do with a customer who is more displaying these influence traits. And that's, we won't want to talk too many details because they are much more focused on the people side of things and the pace that they move at. We don't want to bring up negative issues with them. And also we don't want to be too practical in the situation because that may well impact the way in which we can build that rapport with them. So that's just a few ideas of things you might want to do to adapt your style when you're having a sales conversation with an influence style of behavioural traits. So under the DISC behavioural styles, we're now at the S, which is steadiness. And I wanted to just share my thoughts with you today around the different traits that a customer displays in these situations and the things that we can do differently. But first of all, let's think about that Star Wars character that I've been doing all week that displays these sort of traits, and I think it's probably Luke Skywalker who's around steadiness. Very people focused still, but a bit slower pace, wants to understand a little bit more about the situation before he's going to make decisions and things. So that's the sort of person to picture when we talk about steadiness. So what are some of the traits that the customer is going to display that we engage with in a sales conversation when we talk steadiness? It's likely they're going to be quite easygoing, they're going to listen carefully, and they're going to ask questions and inquiries about the specifics of the product or service that we're talking about, and they're really going to want to engage more and understand more about these things. They're going to ponder alternatives, and they're going to be a bit slower in the decision-making process that we go through. So there's some of the things that we need to think about when we're talking to them. So what are some of the things that you should be doing as a salesperson when you're engaging with somebody with the steadiness traits? Well, you want to proceed in a logical order and ask specific questions to find out their true needs. And provide support throughout the process for them as well, to give them confidence that you're there as a supporter and an ally as they're making that decision-making process. You want to provide precedence to avoid the uncertainty and reduce the uncertainty for that prospect or customer as well. And also you want to collaborate with the customer and openly discuss with them the issues that might well be they may well be thinking about, and do that in like a really conversational way so it keeps building that rapport and trust with them. And also demonstrate some of the lower risk solutions, because it's likely that they are going to be more risk adverse than some of the other traits that we would talk about. So what do you not want to do with a customer? You don't want to forget your promises. So if you say you're going to follow up, you need to follow up, because they'll remember that sort of thing. You don't want to make unexpected changes for them. They like certainty. And don't be unreliable. So you turn up at the time you said you're going to turn up for the meeting, etc., because they're all things that they hold very, very passionately to themselves. So they're just some of the things that I believe are really important that you should do and not do in a sales conversation with somebody displaying steadiness. Just wanted to share with you my final thoughts around the DISC behavioural and personality types of different customers. And today, just going to focus on the compliance, the C. Some people call it conscientiousness as well under the DISC profiling system. So I've been sharing with you all my thoughts around different Star Wars characters and who falls under which of these. And I think this one is C3PO. So someone who's very focused on the task in hand, loves the information and the data, and is a bit slower in the pace that they move at, really wants to think through things. So let's have a think about some of the traits that a customer would display when we're in a conversation with them who is showing this sort of compliance personality traits. So they're going to be a lot more quiet in the conversation. They're going to want to focus on the details. They're going to ask lots and lots of questions. and they're likely to have done their homework before you've even met them on their on the products and services that they're talking about. So they've probably spent plenty of time on the internet researching the product and know the ins and outs of it. So that shifts the sort of conversation and the way in which you're going to engage with them as well. So what are some of the things that you should do as a salesperson in the conversation? Is really important that you listen carefully, answer their questions calmly as well, and be very thorough when you're talking about the different products and services that you've got, because you want to know all the relevant information about the products and services. Slow down your presentation. You know, a lot of us as salespeople fall perhaps under the I element, so we go through these things very quickly. So we need to perhaps slow our pace down a bit with these customers as well. And we need to be very systematic, exact and logical in the way that we go about doing these things as well. Things you might want to avoid doing is moving too fast, spending too much time on the small talk with them, expecting them to make a decision right away. This is something someone might want to mull over and think about the details more, and even maybe do some extra research as well. And also try and avoid challenging their product and their knowledge or point of view in these situations, because it's something that they hold very close and dear to their hearts as well. So there's just a few ideas of things that you might want to think about when engaging with customers under the DISC framework. If you haven't had a chance, watch the previous videos which cover the D for dominance, the I for influence, and the S for steadiness. But I hope you found those useful hints and tips and things that you can do a bit different in these conversations that you're having with customers. I look forward to hearing more of your thoughts below. Take care.